I'm Jeff, this is Tropical Plants at 53 degrees north, and today I'm not actually showing you this. Well, obviously you can see it, but that's not the subject of this video. Today we're going to talk about Zygopetalum, so I thought I'd do kind of a dramatic sweep downwards, just past some of my many successes. Few successes, as you all know. I've had many failures as well. Learning experiences, I like to think of them as. So here's the Zygo coming up for a dramatic reveal. Ta-da! What do you think of that? So it's not completely open. We've got 3 blooms there. One's partly open, one is about to. So I've had this Zygopetalum. Let me just grab hold of the label. Since 24th of October. Gosh, it's not that long really. I mean, we're April 2020 now, but I'm treating this as one of my successes because this is a reblooming. And I think what I'll do, I'm going to tell you a little bit about it, but I think it'd probably be better if I put you on the tripod stand so that my hand is not doing all this wobbly stuff. Okay. If you're new to my channel, click the subscribe button, ding the notification bell, and you won't miss any updates. Okay, that's probably a little bit better. So, absolutely beautiful blooms, really unusual, very fragrant. It's one of those, get the sun on it and it will fill the space with the fragrance. Really nice plant. So I'll tell you a little bit about it, and what I'll do is I'll tell you about my experience with it in the short number of months I've had it. So what's that, 5, 6, 7 months, nearly 8 months. So Zygopetalum. So zygon is from the Greek, which means yolk, and petalon means petal or sepal, both Greek. So basically it means like the petal or sepal around the yolk, encasing the yolk. And I'm guessing that kind of yellow blob in the middle is the yolk. Nice to know. So this is classed as a cool to intermediate plant. Cool to intermediate orchid. Now I've got some thoughts on that because these cool to intermediate terms can mean different things to different people. Now there are only 15 species, many hybrids, and it grows in South America, and it is a true epiphytic orchid, although I did find one source that said that there are some terrestrial ones as well. So I'll go through some of the care requirements for it as reported by various sources, which I've kind of put together, and then as usual, I'll tell you about my experience with it and how my experience kind of compares and contrasts to these sources of information. So I'll start off with watering. So the watering, I was told, treat it as a masdevallia. So you need to keep it mostly moist. That's what you would tend to do with a masdevallia. Lightly moist, so not absolutely soaking wet, but lightly moist. Now I would say make sure you know that it has good roots first. Now mine, if I lift it up, you can see that it has roots poking out the bottom. So I know that on those roots they might be dead now because they're poking out of the bottom and they're not in any media, but when they first came out they were strong growing roots, so I knew that it had roots. The watering is probably the thing. It's a bit like Miltoniopsis. It's the thing that probably kills most of these orchids. Because it's a true epiphyte, it's intolerant of really soggy mixes and anything that holds on to the moisture. Now it's actually in the same media that it came in. It's that kind of, I don't know what the heck it is, like coconut husk. It's like a really fibrous stuff, but I've found that stuff, that media, is very water retentive in my environment. So I am really careful to wait until it's practically dry before I then go and water it again. I don't want it to get too soggy. Now I am claiming a success here, even though you can see I've not actually repotted it yet. I will repot it once these blooms are over. The success that I'm claiming with it came through I almost lost it. Now those of you who've watched my videos will know I've got a warmer side and a cooler side of the greenhouse. And when I bought it in October, it was great. It flowered for about a month, and then November and December hit. And in the UK, especially at this latitude, we get much shorter days. The days go down to about 7 hours, I think, and even during the day the light levels are very low. Now I did get some additional lighting, but that was quite late on. If you've got in your mind at that point that you need to treat it like a Masdevallia and you're keeping it quite wet, this is where the problem lies. The cool to intermediate labels for this plant, certainly in my environment, the cool is an extreme that it doesn't really like, especially when the cool is combined with higher humidity, which it generally is in the UK. So you've got an environment where it's going down to, I mean, I allowed it to go down to about 7, but this actually happened before then, even down to 12 degrees Celsius. This is where things started to go wrong. The humidity was quite high, so there's moisture in the air. I'm watering it to the point that, you know, every time I go past and I think it looks a bit drier, I'll give it a water, just like I would do with a Masdevallia. And what I found was that the leaves started getting black spots on them. Some of the bases of the growths started to go black and rot off. One of the new growths, which did have a new flower spike coming from it, let me see if I can show you that one there, and I've got my finger round, and it went black right down the centre, and in the end I just pulled it gently and the whole thing came out. Actually, while I'm close up, I'll just give you a close up of that bloom just so you can see how gorgeous it is. Really nice. And there are many different ones. They do have a, I mean, they obviously have a look of a Zygopetalum. Most of them tend to have those kind of black dots on them, but there are different ones. So yeah, that was my experience with it, and it was only when I created a warmer side, which was actually only in, I think it was mid to late January 2020, that it really took off when I put it over here. Which leads me on to the temperatures. Actually, before I say that, the roots. So if you're watering it, and I can see the roots coming through the bottom, but if you're giving it plenty of water, and let's say you do what I've just said, you let it almost dry out before you water it again. If you can't see any roots coming through, and if you don't know if there are any roots in there, watering it and doing it like that by keeping it moist will actually do more harm than good, because if some of your roots are rotting and you know it's not got a good root system, then you've got an issue by overwatering. And that's what I've done with countless orchids, well, not countless, but certainly several of my newly purchased orchids, Miltoniopsis being one in particular. So make sure you know that it's got a good root system. I think if I got one again, I would knock it out of the pot just to check, so I would know that I'm giving it the water that those roots deserve. And size of pot is going to be quite crucial too. I'm definitely not going to put this into a bigger pot. It's already, I think, in too big a pot, but we're managing to keep it ticking along, and it's looking nice at the moment. So temperatures, they like a differential. Cooler night time, warmer days. So night time, roughly 16 to 18, which is precisely the temperature I have in this warmer side of the greenhouse all year round. Warmer days, 21 to 24. I'm probably going a bit higher than that sometimes. When the sun comes out, I'm probably going up to about 27, but it's in a sheltered spot. It is shaded. We've got the 60% shade up, and that will go to an 85% shade once the sun gets a bit higher into the sky. So almost by default, really, I've got it in the right kind of a temperature. Humidity 40 to 60%. Well, I'm keeping it at 70 at the moment, so that's okay. Light, bright light, but not direct sunlight, not deep shade either. So again, if you imagine, these grow in the forests, and it's very humid where they grow, and it tends to be like low to mid elevations in South America. But if you can imagine it up in a tree, in a forest, it's going to get that kind of dapple shade. It's not going to get a direct sunlight all the time. The blooms are very long lasting. This particular spike that you can see on there has been coming for roughly 2 months, and the blooms should last about 3 months. So that's something to look forward to. And you can see there's another growth there just over on the left there, this one, and I'm hoping this one starts to send a spike up at some point once that pseudobulb has matured. So yeah, that's the biggest problem with it. Spots on leaves and the bottom sides of the growths, the new growths, or inside the new developing pseudobulbs, you'll start to see some rot, and you know that that's cold, too wet, too humid. You need to get it somewhere where it's warmer and those temperatures at night time are not dropping below kind of 16, 17, 18 degrees Celsius, and you'll find that it then becomes quite easy. Fertilizer, just a weak feed throughout the growing season. So potting media, I said I've got it in this coconut stuff at the moment, but what I'm going to put it in after that is a bark and perlite mix. I might put a little bit of moss in there as well, just a little bit, so it's not totally dry. Now again, if you're going to copy that depends on your own environment. I've found so far anyway that kind of a mix has worked well for this kind of a plant. Probably going to put it in a slightly smaller pot. I mean, it depends. I need to see the roots first. But if I just pick the tripod up a second and just show you the bottom there, you can see that it's only half filling the pot as it is. It does have quite thick roots though, as you could see coming through the bottom. So I'll need to get that open and get that unpotted and have a look and see what kind of pot to put it in. But I'm certainly not going to overpot it. I'm going to make a concerted effort to get it into the right size pot. So that's it really. That's all there is to know about, well, I'm sure it's not all there is to know, but it's all I can tell you about the Zygopetalum. Just before I go, I'll give you another close-up of those blooms because I think they're well worth looking at again. And I wish this was smell-o-vision, and then you could have a smell of them too, because they do smell really beautiful. I'll see if I can hold that somewhere, if I can. There we are. So we've got the lip, that's the labellum. That's where the insect would land. That up there, I think if I remember correctly, it's the cap. And then we always have the top there, the dorsal, will that be the sepal, lateral sepals there, petal, that's the modified petal at the bottom there. I was trying to remember from one of the videos I did on orchid parts. Yeah, beautiful plant, and like I say, I'm almost claiming a success for this one, although I know that really I need to repot it as well and get it to bloom for a second time under my command. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give me a thumbs up. If you didn't, don't give me a thumbs up. Thumbs down, I don't mind either way. And for now, I will see you on the next one. Bye.